Hi, I'm Cathy from Eclectic Images and thank you for joining me for a bit more Christmas crafting. So today's card is going to be definitely with a Christmas theme, using some of our old favourite stamps plus a couple of newer ones. And we're going to be working with some shimmer dusts and some metallic paints to put together something really pretty. So let's have a look at our stamps for today. So we're using the Bauble diamond, but also the new Ho 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 background, the Christmas Merry and Bright word set, which was last year's Christmas release, and also an old favourite, the pine needles. Our inks today will be Versafine Clair, both the Rainforest and the Nocturne, some Versamark for embossing, and we're going to do our embossing in some Princess Gold. For colouring, I'll be using the shimmer dust in Fern, which is a nice green shade. Now the shimmer dust, we can use it to create a background, but we can also use it to paint over our bauble design as well. But with the painting, I want to liven it up a bit, so I'm also going to add in some of the Gansai Tambi metallic watercolour paints and mix that in with the shimmer dust, which will give us just that extra bit of sparkle. So let's have a bit of a play. But before we start, I just want to describe a little bit about the Ho 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 stamp, because I wanted a background stamp that could cover quite a large area, either a larger card or a journal page, but once you start making bigger stamps, they get very expensive for people to buy. So to try and keep it quite affordable, but to cover a larger area, what I've done is I've actually made the edges of the stamp quite uneven, but they match to the other side. So if you stamp it a couple of times, you can tuck that in quite close, both on both sides and top and bottom. So that means that you can actually cover whatever area you like and it will look seamless. So what I've done here, and I've already got this one partly ready, what I've done here is I've stamped this 4 times across the card so that it fills out, because I want to use it as a border stamp, so that way it's filling out that whole border area of the card and you can't tell where that one particular stamp starts and stops. Now I've also done a little bit of shimmer dust on this already because I wanted to make sure I had a matching ink pad colour. But we will start by adding to that background with our shimmer dust. Now our shimmer dust comes in the little pots like this, but I like to actually decant them into a bottle with a needle tip. Oh, that was very sharp, Matthew. I love that transfer. Okay, so I can just hold on to the little lid bit out of the way with my thumb, tip it up and just start tapping a little bit on. Now I don't need to cover the whole card because I just want the colour around the border. We're going to put a topper on it which will have the bauble. So we're just mainly going around that edge. I'm just going to pop the little lid back on the bottle there. Now get our water bottle and we'll spritz the back, which stops the card curling too much, and then start spritzing the front and just let that colour explode everywhere. That's all a bit special, isn't it? Now I'd love to leave it that intense, but I do need it to dry a bit so that we can keep going with our card. So I am going to go over it with a bit of paper towel, but if you like it, the stronger colour, just leave it sit for a while to dry and it will maintain that intensity. But we need it to dry a bit quicker, so I'm just going to paper towel it off and then just sit it to one side to dry for a little while. We clean our mat, and now I've also pre-stamped the Bauble diamond and gone over it with the heat gun so that hopefully we can now emboss over the top without our embossing powder sticking to everything. But I will also use my anti-static pad because we really want to make sure that our Christmas greeting only goes where we want it to go. Cross your fingers that I've got it dry enough. Okay, let's pop this into our stamp platform. So I'm just going to check that I'm lining it up with a point on the grid so that if it does move, I can get it lined up again. And we're going to pop our Christmas across that stamp. So I'm going to have to angle it to fit it in, and I want the middle of it right in the middle of the bauble. And that looks pretty good. I'm mentally just checking I've got it up the right way as well. Okay, make sure that's sitting down. Ink up with our Versamark. Now just before I ink up, I'll get my embossing powder ready and a little bit of catching paper ready. just a little bit of scrap there. And now we can ink up our stamp. Give it a nice press down. Whisk it out and pop it into the embossing powder. Give it a little tap. Oh, I think we've done it. I think the bauble was dry enough. I think we're good. I've got a little bit there that I don't want. So just flick that off a bit, and a little bit on this side that we don't want. Okay. Clear that embossing powder out of the way before I get the heat gun on the go. And we'll just clean our stamp and pop our platform to one side as well. So just wipe over the stamp and put it to one side, move our platform, and then we can heat our embossing powder. And we should have this lovely magical gold. The embossing powder will, because it is opaque, it will cover up the design underneath. I'm just waiting for that to change. A whole lot of it warm, and there it goes. Just going to pop my finger there to make sure that it doesn't run away on us. Okay. You can see how that Christmas just stands out beautifully from our bauble. Now I'll just bring up my scratch pad, and I've got the fern colour loaded onto my palette here. So if we open that up, so this is where I have all my shimmer dusts loaded in, ready for actually painting with. So now I can just use my aqua brush, pick up a bit of fern, and we're going to wash that over the bauble. Now the embossing will just resist it. Now we could, I'll then do a wash with the watercolour over the top, the metallic watercolour, or you could actually put your shimmer dust just onto your glass mat. So actually I'll do that a bit as well, just so we can see both. I'm just going to tap a bit of that shimmer dust onto my mat. And with our metallic watercolour paint, let me just get a little bit of a bit of paper towel scrap, just for cleaning my brush out. Okay, so what I can do here is I can just pick up, and I'm just choosing to use the opal gold. I can just pick up the gold and just do a wash over the top, and you'll see you've still got your green colour there, but it just gives it that fabulous extra shine. Or we could pick up the metallic on our brush and then mix it in with the fern on our mat and paint with it that way. And it may give us a little bit of a different shade doing it that way. This is nice actually. You can also get different colours coming through just because of the fact with the shimmer dust, they use different colours of powder to make up the colours. So sometimes when you're painting and when you're shaking it on, as you can see here, you actually get little bits of blues and browns and blacks, what they've used to make up that colour. So you get a little bit of variation. So sometimes when you're painting, you'll get a little bit of darker comes through, a bit of lighter comes through. I want it a little bit darker around that embossed area. Just bring in a little bit more, just so the gold stands out a little bit more. But I like that bit light around the edge there. It's nice because it's giving it a bit of a highlight. Okay. And now that same gold colour, I'm going to grab a little bit of, what should we use for the top of it? Maybe just a bit of candy, a bit of red. Pop that there. Give my brush a clean, and then again we might pick up some of the opal copper rather than the gold. Let's give that a little bit of a spritz just to get it started. Okay, just checking that I've got some nice amount of metallic on the brush. Pick that red up and I'll do a little bit down the bottom on that gem there as well. Okay, nice and Christmassy. Now you can see there's a little bit pooling there on the Christmas word where we've embossed. So I'm just going to come in with my paper towel and just lift that off a little bit so that comes back to being the gold, the beautiful gold embossed word. Okay, now a little bit of heat gun just to dry that, and also we still need to dry this background piece off a bit as well. So sorry, we're just going to have a bit of heat gun noise while we get those bits dry. Now particularly because I've already got embossing there, I don't want to hold my heat gun in one spot. I want to keep it moving so that we don't risk overheating that embossing powder. We just need to dry the bauble out a bit without heating it too much. And this background we need to also dry. This hasn't been embossed, so I can just concentrate the heat a little bit more on that one. Although I do think by moving it around a bit, you get more air movement as well, which I think helps speed up the drying a bit. There we go, starting to flatten down, which is nice. Okay, so while I've got this one up on the scratch pad, let's darken off around the edge for it. So for doing this, I've chosen the VersaFine Clear Rainforest. And I'll just do that with a big brush. So pick up a bit of colour. And by shading the edge, it should make the bauble topper stand out more. But because I've made the bauble topper piece quite narrow, we're still going to see quite a bit of that background showing, which is going to be really cool. One more edge to go. Now this is one of the VersaFine Clear inks, which is a pigment ink, but you can certainly use pigment inks like VersaFine Clear and VersaMagic inks to do your shading around the edge, as well as using your inks like the Catherine Pooler ones and your distress inks and things like that. Your pigment inks can be brushed on just as easily. Okay, let's pop that to one side. Now, now I'm going to need that because I'm going to bring in the pine needles around our Christmas bauble, so we give it a bit of tree that it's hanging from. So I'm just going to hold the stamp over and see which part of the stamp I want to ink up. I think it's going to be all of that. Okay. So I'm inking up most of it. So using that same ink. So this way the green on the topper is going to match the green of the background. Let's pop it over so it's looking like that bauble's in the tree. And I am going to use my Stamp Baron tool on this big block just to give it an extra bit of a push. That's come up really nice. Now let's have a look at those two together. Do I need to shade around the edge of that one as well? You know, I might just do the bottom corner, but not all of it. That's a bit out there for me to not do the whole lot. But just to balance out the amount of green up the top there, but then sort of fade it off to nothing. Definitely a bit out there for me. Okay, now let's stick these together, and then I might just add a little bit of glitter and stuff too, because it's Christmas. So I'll grab my double-sided tape.
As if you need an excuse for glitter.
Oh yeah, you're You're right on that point. But maybe Christmas is just an excuse for more glitter.
I thought it was just restrictive because it cuts back on the number of colours you're going to use. You're probably just going to use green and red and gold.
Yeah, but more. Okay. Peel my bits of tape off. Make sure I've smoothed them down enough so that they actually lift up nice and quickly for me. There we go. Very important to do this bit before you put your wet stickles and things on. A number of times I go to make a card and put all the stickles on and then go, oh, now I've got to wait for all that to dry before I can stick it together. I'm just going to smooth this through my hand just to flatten it out. Again, if you're working on something like this at home and you've got time, you can actually sit that under a heavy book and let it and flatten it right out before you start sticking bits on. Now I'm actually going to flip this over the other way just so I can have a look and remind myself of how much of a border I'd given myself. So I can see it's a little bit wider on the edges. So now I can place my card in, check my side borders are right, check I'm fairly straight with the sides, and then flatten it down. And that is our card, except for the glitter. And looking at colours, I think I'm just going to go with some gold. So I'll just squeeze a bit out onto my paper towel just to make sure it's all running nicely. And what I'm going to do is add some extra like Christmas lights in the tree. And a bit on the bauble down the bottom there. Do I do more? This is a dilemma. I'm just going to spread it out rather than doing blobs.
Well, you've only been going 17 and a bit minutes.
Oh, I've got more time to play. It's looking pretty nice, isn't it? You know what? Okay, let's just go with it. Stick with gold. And do a line all the way around the edge. If you can't use maximum amounts of glitter at Christmas time, when can you? Oh, I love it. Love it. Okay, maybe that's enough now. All right, I'm just going to move this card over off the glass mat here over onto the black so you can actually see that all stand out. I love it. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed that one. I hope you're going to get out lots of glitter. Okay, see you next time.